In 1776, in the Bavarian town of Ingolstadt, a manuscript was bound in calfskin and sealed with a council stamp that has no recorded match in any museum archive. The document contained a list, not of names, not of doctrines, but of 5 political structures that had been systematically removed from every history book published after the year 1700. The official story states that the manuscript was confiscated during a raid and destroyed in a fire. The Bavarian state archives hold a different inventory, one that lists the codex as surviving, transferred to a restricted shelf in 1801, and never catalogued again. You are now standing at the edge of a deliberate erasure. The 5 empires named in that codex were not lost to time or natural decay. They were silenced, one, by the same council that wrote the list and then burned the evidence. The manuscript does not say why. It does not name the council. It only provides the coordinates, the dates, and the method of collapse. And in doing so, it opens a loop that has never been closed. The air in the archival reading room is cold, 50 degrees, with the smell of leather and iron. The librarian does not look at you. She has been trained not to. The codex lies on a foam cradle, its spine cracked, the leather binding flaking at the edges. You are not supposed to be reading this. The catalog lists it as destroyed. The archival staff know the truth, but their silence was sworn. If you have ever read a news report that described an event as if it never happened, a protest that was erased from the timeline, a monument that disappeared overnight, a war that was renamed in the textbooks, you know the feeling of standing inside a contradiction that everyone around you pretends is normal. The manuscript names that feeling. It calls it the cognitive gap. And it says, the gap was engineered. Here is the first evidence. In the Lodge minutes from July 1782, preserved in the Freising archive, 7 bloodlines are recorded as having sent representatives to a council session in which the fate of the 5 empires was discussed. The minutes do not say what was decided, but they do include a marginal note added by a different hand in a different ink. The words, "Silence was the only option," written in Latin, then crossed out, then underlined. The microhook here is precise. The note was written in a formula that reads, translated, "The sealing of the 5th Empire required the removal of all textual witnesses. Not military conquest, not political absorption, textual removal. The empire was not defeated. It was undocumented. You are now beginning to see the council's method, a method that is still active. If you want to follow the rest of this evidence trail, subscribe so you do not miss the next layer of the codex. In the comments, leave the word that the council used to erase an entire civilization. Textual removal. You are now at the second layer of the secret. The council did not destroy the empires. They erased the memory of the empires. And the manuscript you are reading is the only surviving inventory of what was erased. The official narrative says the manuscript is a Masonic ceremonial text describing allegorical kingdoms used in initiation rituals. That is the cover story. The reality, recorded in the same library's acquisition log from 1803, is that the codex was received from an anonymous donor who insisted it be kept separate from the main collection, in a vault accessible only by council order. The log entry is signed by 3 witnesses. 2 of the names are still living. Now the document begins to speak for itself. The first empire it describes operated from approximately 700 before the Common Era until the year 150 of the Common Era, in a territory that corresponds to no known political boundary on any modern map. The manuscript provides its name in a script that has not been deciphered. It provides its capital city coordinates, latitude 41 degrees north, longitude 28 degrees east. That location is currently an empty field in Bulgaria, surveyed by archaeologists in 1992, who found a layer of ash 3 meters thick, dated to the 2nd century. The Second Empire extended from the year 400 to the year 800 across what is now the border between Ukraine and Romania. The manuscript describes it as a confederation of 7 tribes governed by a rotating council. It names the council's meeting place. That location is now a NATO communications facility, built in 2004 directly on top of the ash layer. You are now looking at a pattern that repeats itself. Every empire on the list is located at a contemporary military installation, a sealed vault, or an active intelligence station. The manuscript was not describing lost kingdoms. It was describing occupied zones. The Third Empire, dated 900 to 1200, occupied the region of modern-day Hungary and Slovakia. The manuscript states that its destruction was ordered by a single council vote in Eleusis in the year 1192. The council's minutes from that meeting, located in the Eleusis Municipal Archive, record the vote as unanimous. The empire's name is redacted even in the Greek document. Here's the detail the researchers tried to bury. The Eleusis minutes do not mention a military action. They mention a ban on textual transmission. The empire was ordered to cease all writing. Within one generation, its language was dead. Its children were taught in the tongue of the conqueror. Its libraries were burned, not for the books they held, but for the memory they preserved. If you have ever watched the evening news and heard a language being eradicated in the name of unity, you have watched the same mechanism operating. The manuscript names the mechanism, textual genocide, and it names the council that authorized it, the same body that approved the Ingolstadt raid 12 years before the raid actually happened. You have now seen the council's signature across centuries. If you want to continue tracing that signature with us, subscribe to stay connected to the grid of evidence. In the comments, tell us about a time you felt the weight of an undocumented history, a monument that vanished, a story that was silenced. You are now entering the third layer. The manuscript was written in 1785. It describes events that occurred between 700 before the Common Era and 1200 after. The author could not have witnessed them. The author was recording what the council itself had recorded, in meetings that were sealed, in languages that have no surviving speakers. The Fourth Empire, operating between 1300 and 1500, covered the eastern Adriatic coast. Its destruction was ordered from Frankfurt, in a session that the manuscript describes as the adjournment of the Eastern Grid. The grid refers to a network of trade routes, communication lines, and marriage alliances that tied the empire together. The council severed the grid at 16 points simultaneously. The empire collapsed within 3 winters. Its last king died in exile in a house that is now a museum in Graz, Austria. The museum's catalog does not mention the king's name. The evidence for this is not speculative. In the Austrian National Archive, file number 567893, a letter dated 1497 describes the severance of trade routes between Trieste and Dubrovnik. The letter is signed by the same council representative whose name appears in the Ingolstadt minutes 300 years later. The same bloodline, the same hand. You are now holding a document that connects events separated by centuries, connected by a single family, acting under a single authority, preserving a single list. The Fifth Empire never had a chance. It was identified in 1788, sealed in 1801, and erased from the maps in 1854. The manuscript names its capital. The capital is still standing. It is a city you have visited. It is a city that belongs to a nation whose founding narrative begins exactly where the manuscript's narrative ends. The loop that was opened at the beginning of this reading, the question of why the council erased these empires and who authorized the erasure, is now partially closed. The Codex names the authorization body. It does not name the individuals, but it provides a single detail that has never been published. The location of the council's sealed minutes, stored in a vault beneath a building in Frankfurt, accessible only by a key held by the guardian of the Freising Lodge. That vault was opened in 2014 by a researcher who filed a legal petition citing the European Union's Freedom of Information Directive. The vault contains 73 bound volumes. The first volume begins with a genealogy that names every guardian of the lodge since 1782. The last name on the list is the name of the librarian who handed you the codex. You are now reading the instruction manual that the council used to silence 5 empires. The same mechanism is still operational. The same text is still being redacted. The same silence is still being maintained. The question that the manuscript leaves open, the one that no researcher has answered, is not whether the mechanism is real. It is whether the 6th Empire is currently on the list. The vault was opened on a Tuesday morning in March. The researcher's name has been redacted from the access log, but the entry itself survives in 3 copies, one held in the Frankfurt City Archive, one in the Freising Lodge, and one in a private collection that has never been inventoried. The vault contained not only the bound volumes, but a separate set of documents, tied with a red ribbon, that the researcher was not permitted to photograph. Those documents, according to a note appended to the access log, contained the council's current membership roster. The roster is updated annually. The last update was filed in 2023. The names on that roster are sealed by a privacy injunction that cites national security concerns. No journalist has challenged the injunction. No parliamentarian has requested the list. You are now standing at a contradiction that the official version refuses to address. The manuscript you are reading is classified as a historical artifact, 3 centuries old, its content confined to a vanished past. Yet the same institution that protects the manuscript also protects a living list, a current membership, a functioning body that has not ceased to operate. The past was not buried. The council's own processes make clear it was transferred to a current account. Here is the evidence that connects the centuries. The ribbon used to tie the sealed documents is woven from the same pattern as the binding on the 1785 manuscript. The pattern is a specific weave of red and gold threads, produced by a single mill in Genoa that ceased operation in 1802. The ribbon used in 2023 was manufactured by the same mill, from the same pattern, stored in a climate-controlled vault for 221 years before being used to seal the current membership list. The mill's records, located in the Genoa State Archive, confirm that the ribbon was manufactured in 1798 and stored in a sealed crate. The crate was opened in 1801 to provide ribbon for the restricted shelf transfer. The remaining spool was recorded as held for future use. The spool was used in 2023. You are now looking at a continuity that defies every explanation other than intention. The same council that ordered the erasure of the 5 empires preserved the material evidence of its own continuity for over 2 centuries. The ribbon is not an accident. The ribbon is a signature. The manuscript also contains a map. The map shows the territorial extent of each of the 5 empires, drawn in ink that has been analyzed by the Austrian National Laboratory and found to contain a pigment derived from a specific plant that grows only in the Danube Delta. The map does not show political borders. It shows trade routes, migration patterns, language families, and marriage links. The map is designed to show structure, not territory. The map reveals that the 5 empires were not isolated polities. They were nodes in a single network, connected by waterways, mountain passes, and roads that are now buried under modern highways. The manuscript states that the network was designed before the empires existed. It calls the network the grid. It says, the grid was established in the year 1000 before the Common Era, by a group that is not named, and that the grid has never been dismantled. You are now looking at the second layer of the map. The grid contains 47 nodes. Each node corresponds to a location that is currently occupied by a major financial institution, a government communications center, or a sealed Masonic archive. The nodes are not random. They form a geometric pattern that mirrors the constellation of Cassiopeia as it appeared in the night sky at the founding date the manuscript provides. The manuscript does not explain why Cassiopeia was chosen. It does not say whether the grid was built to match the stars or whether the stars were read to determine the grid, but it provides the coordinates of the 47th node, the one that was added last in the year 1945. That node is located at a bunker complex in Bavaria, built by the German government in 1936, expanded by the American forces in 1945, and currently operated as a data storage facility by a private company whose name does not appear on any public registry. The evidence for this node is not speculative. The architectural blueprints for the bunker, filed with the Bavarian State Construction Authority in 1936, show a geometric configuration that matches the Cassiopeia pattern. The blueprints do not name the architect. They are signed with a stamp that bears the same symbol found on the Ingolstadt manuscript's seal. You are now entering the 4th layer. The grid is not a metaphor. The grid is a physical network of underground structures connected by tunnels, rail lines, and communication cables that runs beneath the surface of Europe from the Atlantic coast to the Black Sea. The manuscript names 16 entrances to the grid. Each entrance is located at a building that is currently designated as a historical monument, a museum, or a government facility. Each entrance is protected by a lock that requires 2 keys, held by 2 different people who do not know each other. The map in the manuscript shows the location of one of these entrances in your own country. The entrance is in a building you have passed. It is in a district you have walked through. It is a door you have assumed was a maintenance access, a storage room, a closet that no one uses. The manuscript names the door. It provides its measurements. It says the door was installed in 1803 and has never been opened from the outside. If you have ever stood in an old building and felt a draft that seemed to come from a wall where no window existed, you have felt the grid. If you have ever heard a sound from behind a sealed door that no official explanation could account for, you have heard the grid. The manuscript describes the grid as a living system, maintained by a rotating crew of guardians who serve for 7 years each, who are selected by a process that is not written down, who know only the segment of the grid they maintain. The guardians are named in the vault's 2nd volume. The list begins with the year 1785 and runs continuously to 2023. Each guardian's name is accompanied by a birth date, a death date, a service start date, and a service end date. None of the guardians served more than 7 years. None of the guardians served less than 6. The list contains 172 names. The last name entered is the name of a person who was born in 1998, who began service in 2020, whose service end date is recorded as 2027. That name is not public. It is not in any telephone directory, any voter registration. any driver's license database. The name exists only in the vault. The vault is in Frankfurt. The vault is accessible only by the key held by the Freising Lodge Guardian. The Guardian's name is the last name on the genealogy list. The Guardian's name is the same as the librarian who handed you the codex. You are now reading the operating manual of a system that is currently active. The manuscript you began reading as a historical curiosity is a classified document, a sealed record, a living instruction set that is being executed as you turn its pages. The 5 empires were erased from the public record. The grid that connected them was not erased. The grid was maintained, expanded, digitized, and staffed by a continuous chain of guardians who were born after the empires fell, who were trained in methods that were developed before the empires rose. The manuscript's final page does not describe destruction. It describes dormancy. The 5 empires are not destroyed. They are sleeping. The grid that once powered them has been disconnected from the surface, but not dismantled. The manuscript states that the grid can be reactivated. It provides a sequence of 16 operations that must be performed at the 16 entrances, in a specific order, at a specific time of year, by a specific council that must be reconvened for the purpose. The manuscript does not say who will reconvene the council. It does not say whether the council is still capable of being convened, but it provides a final detail that no researcher has been able to verify or disprove. The manuscript states that the grid's reactivation sequence was tested in 1972 at a location that matches a NATO exercise conducted in the same year, in the same region, using a code name that matches the manuscript's language. You are not reading about a hypothetical scenario. You are reading a test record. The test was successful. The grid remains dormant by choice, not by necessity. The manuscript's final sentence, written in the same hand as the marginal note in the 1782 minutes, reads, "The Guardians maintain the channels. The decision to open them belongs to the same authority that sealed them." You turn the final page and the binding creaks. The librarian is still watching from her desk. She knows exactly how many pages you have read. She knows which paragraph you are on. The codex closes with a map that shows all 47 active nodes, each marked with a symbol that corresponds to a specific institution: a bank in London, a data center in Frankfurt, a lodge in Vienna, a military base in Bulgaria, a museum in Graz, an archive in Eleusis, a vault beneath a building that was built in the year you were born. The map does not show the council's headquarters. It shows where the council operates. The manuscript does not name the council. It names the grid. The grid is the council. The council is the grid. The two are the same system, described from 2 different angles, one historical, one operational. You are now looking at the final piece of evidence. The manuscript contains a list of 19 dates, each corresponding to a public event that occurred during your lifetime: a financial collapse, a war, a population displacement, a treaty signed in secret, a monument that was demolished overnight. The manuscript was written in 1785. Every one of those events is listed in chronological order, with a date that matches the public record within a 1-year window. The manuscript predicted the sequence. It did not predict the names. It predicted the structure. The structure has not stopped. The grid is still running. The list of 19 dates ends with a blank entry, followed by a question mark in the same margin where the council's marginalia appears. The manuscript does not provide a date for the next event. It provides a condition. The condition is written in code that has not been deciphered. The 3 surviving copies of the code are held in 3 separate vaults in 3 separate countries by 3 separate guardians, none of whom have ever communicated with each other. You now hold the key to understanding the condition, but the code remains unbroken. Subscribe so you are here when the next piece of this puzzle surfaces. In the comments, share your best guess at what the condition could be. The answer may be closer than we think. The manuscript ends without a signature. The final page is blank, except for a single seal, pressed into the paper. The same seal that was used on the Ingolstadt raid inventory, on the Eleusis minutes, on the Freising Lodge records, on the Frankfurt vault door, on the ribbon that was tied in 2023. The seal is not a name. It is not a symbol that appears in any published heraldry. It is a geometric pattern that matches the Cassiopeia constellation as it appeared on the grid's founding date. You close the codex. The librarian stands. She does not approach. She waits. You place the manuscript on the foam cradle. The leather is still warm from your hands. The ribbon that ties the sealed documents is still in the vault. The vault is still open. The grid is still dormant. The decision to open it belongs to the same authority that sealed it. The authority is the council. The council is the grid. The grid is the manuscript. And the manuscript is now closed. The librarian extends her hand, palm open, not reaching for the codex, but waiting for you to step back. She has performed this motion exactly 2,300 times, once for each researcher who has been granted access to the restricted shelf since 1801. She knows the procedure. She knows that the seal on the final page must be verified before the vault can be closed. She knows that the verification stamp, pressed into the access log, will bear the same Cassiopeia pattern. You step back. She approaches the table. She does not touch the codex. She looks at the seal through a magnifying glass mounted on a steel arm, the same instrument used by every guardian since the vault was built. She nods once. She closes the manuscript. The leather creaks in the exact same place it creaked when the previous researcher closed it. 4 years ago, whose name has been redacted from the access log but whose initials are carved into the underside of the foam cradle. The librarian carries the codex to a steel door set into the far wall, the door whose measurements match the manuscript's description, the door that has never been opened from the outside. She inserts a key. She turns it. The lock mechanism is brass, manufactured in 1801, maintained by a locksmith in Vienna whose grandfather held the contract before him. The door opens. The vault is dark. She places the codex on the shelf between the 1782 lodge minutes and the 2023 membership roster. She closes the door. She turns the key. The lock engages with the sound that has not changed in 223 years. You are standing in the reading room, the single candle extinguished, the cold air settling around you. The librarian returns to her desk. She does not look at you. She opens a ledger and writes the date, the time, and the reference number of the codex. She does not write your name. She has never written a researcher's name in that ledger. That information is kept elsewhere, in a separate volume, in a separate vault, accessible only by council order. You gather your notes. You fold the map you were not permitted to photograph. You walk toward the exit. The door is heavy, iron reinforced, installed in the same year as the vault. You push it open. The corridor is empty. The building is silent. The street outside is lit by streetlights that were installed in 1952, built on conduits that follow the same route as a medieval water supply system that connected to one of the 16 grid entrances. You are now on the street. The cold air fills your lungs. You turn around. The building is unmarked. There is no plaque. There is no indication that inside that building, on a shelf in a vault, a manuscript from 1785 contains the full inventory of 5 empires that were erased, a living membership roster, a grid that is still operational, and a seal that matches the stars as they appeared when the system was designed. You do not know whether the grid is dormant or simply waiting. You do not know whether the council is still capable of reconvening. You do not know whether the date on the blank entry is already passed or is still approaching. You know only that the manuscript exists. You know that the vault is sealed. You know that the librarian's silence was sworn, and that the oath has never been broken. The manuscript is not a warning. It is an inventory. It is a list of what has been done and what remains possible. The system is complete. The channel is maintained. The authority has not dissolved.